My name is Han Jae-min, and this is my story of how I worked in the Squid Games. Rain fell in thin, tired streaks over Seoul's gray skyline. I sat inside a flickering convenience store, my uniform damp from another failed shift at a private security firm. The pay was late again. The manager had told me, next month maybe, but next month had stopped meaning anything a long time ago. My phone buzzed. A message from my wife. The hospital called again. We need another payment for Sua's treatment. I stared at the cracked screen. My reflection looked hollow, the eyes dull and rimmed with sleeplessness. I was drowning in slow motion. That was when I noticed the man in the gray suit outside. Standing perfectly still beneath an umbrella, he looked like a salesman. He was watching me through the glass. When I stepped out, the man smiled. Polite, sharp, unsettling. "Mr. Han Jae-min," he said, as if reading from a file. "You were once an excellent officer. A man who followed orders. Do you still have that discipline?" Jae-min frowned. "Who are you?" "A recruiter," the man replied simply, "for a private security operation. High pay, confidential work. Room and board included, no questions asked." He handed over a sleek black card, no name, no logo, only a number embossed in silver, +37063542741. Call if you're serious. The recruiter left before Jae-min could ask more. Only the faint scent of cigarette smoke remained. That night, I stared at the card for hours. The apartment was silent except for my daughter's soft coughing in the next room. I finally dialed. A calm, robotic voice answered. "Thank you for your interest. Please report to exit 13 of Gwangmyeong Station at 2 a.m. Bring no belongings." Then the line went dead. The van smelled of disinfectant and metal. Inside were others like him, silent, nervous, faces half hidden in the dark. A guard in a pink jumpsuit sat at the front, motionless, the circle symbol gleaming on his mask. When someone tried to ask where they were going, the guard struck the side of the van with his rifle. "Silence," came the filtered voice. Hours later, they arrived at a vast compound deep in the mountains. The recruits were stripped, disinfected, given numbered uniforms, and lined up in a sterile white hall. A voice echoed from hidden speakers. "Welcome. From this point onward, you are no longer individuals. You are staff. You are guards. You are order." Rows of red suits hung neatly on racks beside identical black masks. When my turn came, I hesitated before taking mine. The fabric was heavier than it looked, the kind of weight that didn't come off easily. I slipped on the mask. The world dimmed. His breath echoed inside the hollow shell. The first rule. A supervisor with a square symbol on his mask stood before them. "You will be compensated handsomely," he said, "if you obey. Speak only when spoken to. Reveal your face, and you die. Interfere with the game, and you die. Fail to follow orders, and you die." He paused, letting the silence tighten around them. "Your past no longer exists. You are now part of something greater." My heart pounded. I tried to steady his breathing, but the mask made it sound louder, like the sound of an animal trapped inside a cage. Somewhere in the distance, a gunshot cracked. No one flinched, not even the supervisors. The message was clear. That night, in the dim guard barracks, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Dozens of others slept in rows, identical and silent. I touched the mask on the table beside my bed. For the first time in years, I wasn't worried about money. I just wasn't sure if I traded poverty for something far worse. The next morning began with the shrill sound of whistles slicing through the air. We stood in perfect lines, dozens of us, identical in red uniforms and black masks. My breath echoed inside the mask, loud, mechanical, trapped. A supervisor with a square symbol on his face walked past us, his boots clicking against the concrete. "Remember your duty," he said. "You maintain order. You do not think, you do not feel, you do not question. I tried not to, but I couldn't stop my hands from trembling. My first post was at the red light, green light game. I stood at the perimeter, rifle in hand, staring at the crowd of players lined up in the field. Their green tracksuits looked strange under the artificial sky, like they were part of a different world. They think it's a real game, one of the triangle guards whispered beside me. First-timers always do. I said nothing. Then the doll's voice echoed. Green light. The crowd began to move. Red light. A few players didn't stop in time. The doll's eyes flashed red. Gunfire erupted. Bodies dropped. Screams tore through the air. I froze. My finger hovered over the trigger, but I didn't pull it. Others did. The smell of gunpowder and blood mixed with the dust in my throat. When it was over, 100 players lay still. The rest stood shaking, afraid to breathe. My legs felt heavy, as if the ground itself didn't want me to move. My next assignment was during the honeycomb game. I was told to patrol the edge and eliminate rule breakers. I watched as players carved shapes from brittle sugar. When one cracked his piece, he screamed and begged for another chance. Eliminate player 069, the voice ordered through my earpiece. My finger hesitated on the trigger. Just half a second, then I fired. He fell instantly. The silence afterward was louder than the gunshot. That night, I couldn't stop shaking. I told myself it wasn't murder, it was procedure. But I couldn't forget the look in his eyes right before I pulled the trigger. A week later, during a late patrol, I noticed a door slightly open at the end of an unmarked corridor. Curiosity got the better of me. I slipped inside. The room was dimly lit, lined with shelves stacked with black ledgers and dusty folders. Each one had numbers, player numbers. I pulled one at random. Photos, financial data, background records, everything about them was catalogued. Then I saw one file that made my breath stop. 067, Gandonas. I froze. I knew that name. He'd been the kid from my old neighborhood. Quiet, resourceful, always helping his grandmother sell vegetables at the market. Seeing his name there, his face stamped with a number, made me feel sick. Before I could look deeper, the door slammed shut behind me. You shouldn't be here. It was guard 72. You'll get both of us killed, he hissed. I knew him, I stammered. 067, Gandonas. Stop, 72 interrupted. They watch everything. You want to die? Keep talking? I clenched my fists. They're not just numbers. They're people. So are we, he said. And that's exactly why we can't afford to remember that. He left without another word. I stood there for a long time, surrounded by the files, feeling like the air itself was pressing down on me. That night, I couldn't sleep. The mask on the table beside my bed stared back at me like an accusation. I'd taken this job to survive, to provide for my daughter, but I was starting to realize that survival here came at the cost of everything human inside me. When the announcement came, even through my mask, I could feel the players' fear spike like a pulse in the air. Rows of trembling bodies lined the steel corridor, faces pale under the fluorescent lights. On the stage ahead were two tables, one with brass keys, one with combat knives. Half of you will receive keys, half of you will receive knives. Key holders must survive until the timer ends, or find the real exit hidden inside the maze of doors. Knife holders must each eliminate one key holder before the timer runs out. Fail to do so, and you will be eliminated. When the siren blared, the gates opened and they ran, straight into a labyrinth of steel doors stretching endlessly in every direction. I stood on the upper catwalk with my rifle, staring down into that twisting maze. Every corridor was lined with doors, red, blue, black, some real, some fake, some leading nowhere. From above, the players looked like rats in a machine. Keys flashing, knives glinting, shadows chasing shadows. Each door they opened hissed with air pressure. Some led to locked rooms, some to dead ends, and some to other players. Every scream echoed like a flare in the dark. One woman with a knife kicked open a door and found two key holders huddled inside. I heard her cry, a mix of terror and determination, before she lunged. The feed zoomed in. 1 kill, 2. Her bracelet blinked green. She dropped the blade and vomited on the floor. Knife holder has completed requirement, the PA announced. I swallowed hard. I wanted to look away, but guards weren't allowed to look away. Through the maze's overhead monitors, I spotted 067, Gandonas again. He had a key clenched in his fist, moving cautiously, ducking from door to door. He tested handles, counted corridors, memorizing the maze instead of panicking like the others. He was clever, always had been. Then a knife holder came into frame behind him. A tall man, breathing hard, blade dripping. The camera tracked him as he stalked closer, whispering, "One more kill." One more Gandonas opened a door. Locked. He fumbled with the key, hands shaking. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, just watched through the monitor. Keyholder attempting escape, one supervisor said. "Let him try," another replied. "It'll make good footage." Minutes bled away, the maze filled with groans, sobs, and the rhythmic banging of locked doors. Knife holders were getting desperate, stabbing through doors, cutting each other open when they couldn't find prey. The PA kept counting down. 5 minutes remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Through my headset, orders crackled. "Guards, hold your sectors." No interference, but I couldn't stop watching him, Gandonas, weaving through corridors, searching for something that made sense in a place designed not to. Finally, he reached a tall silver door with a reinforced lock, different from the others. He jammed his key into the slot. It turned halfway, then jammed. The red lights flashed. 1 minute remaining. A woman screamed nearby, a knife holder who hadn't completed her quota. Her bracelet blinked red. I saw Gandonas duck behind a fallen panel just as another knife holder, crazed and bleeding, stumbled toward him. Gandonas looked up at the catwalk, straight at me. Through the glass of his blood-splattered mask, I could see the faint recognition, a flash of memory. He turned, kicked the jammed lock, and the door clicked open just as the buzzer sounded. When the game ended, only a handful of key holders were alive. The rest of the maze was silent, the floor littered with brass, knives, and bodies. We marched through, collecting weapons, tagging corpses, dragging the survivors away. As I passed the silver door, I saw the smear of 067's blood on the frame. He'd made it through, but barely. For the first time since I'd put on the mask, I felt my hands shake. Because in that maze of doors, I couldn't tell anymore who was really trapped, the players or me. After hide and seek, the survivors were barely standing, their breaths ragged, their hands still shaking. But the organizers wasted no time. "Next game, mingle," the PA announced. "Step onto the platform. When it stops spinning, you must quickly form groups of the number announced. Only those in correct groups may enter the rooms. Everyone else will be eliminated." I climbed the catwalk, rifle in hand, to watch from above. The arena looked like a carnival of terror, a circular platform slowly rotating, with dozens of players clinging to the edge or stumbling across its surface. The platform started spinning. Players staggered, trying to keep their balance. Some held hands, others clawed at the railings. Every few seconds, I could see someone slip and almost fall off. Finally, the platform stopped. A voice called out, "Groups of 4. Panic exploded. People scrambled, shouting, dragging each other into safe clusters. Alliances broke instantly. Players shoved and pulled, dragging strangers into their groups, abandoning friends who were slower or smaller. After forming the groups, doors opened around the platform. Each room could hold only the announced number of players. The survivors sprinted across the platform, some diving into rooms, some turning back to push or shove others out. Screams echoed with every collision. I watched Gandonas move calmly, scanning the crowd, calculating every step. A man lunged at him, trying to steal his spot in the room. Gandonas didn't hesitate. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisted, shoved him aside, and slipped through the door just as the heavy metal slammed shut. "Time starts now," the PA said. 30 seconds to enter a room with the correct number. The countdown triggered hysteria. Some groups miscounted and tried to squeeze 5 people into a room for 4. A single extra body triggered instant elimination. Others abandoned slower members entirely. I raised my rifle to aim at some people fighting over a doorway, but orders came through my headset. "Do not interfere, observe and report." The screams, shouts, and slams of doors filled the air. One female shoved a man who had cornered her. The female slashed blindly, hitting another female by accident. 30 seconds passed. Doors locked, sirens wailed, the arena was littered with bodies. Some clawed desperately at the locked doors, others had already fallen. When the PA finally announced the survivors, only those who had formed correct groups and entered valid rooms were alive. The rest were detonated where they stood. I watched Gandonas step out of a room, steady and composed, as if he'd rehearsed the entire game. He had survived again, while others screamed in terror or lay motionless. From my perch, I felt the weight of the mask pressing on me. Every decision, every mistake, every miscount had been fatal, and I was still trapped here, forced to watch and participate in their horror. This game, more than any before, proved one thing. Alliances meant nothing. Survival meant everything. After Mingle, the survivors were shaking but still alive. Some had alliances, most had barely survived by stepping on someone else, but the organizers wasted no time. Next game, Glass Bridge, the PA announced. Cross the bridge, some panes will hold your weight, others will shatter. One misstep, and you fall. I climbed the catwalk above the bridge, rifle in hand, heart hammering. The bridge stretched across a dark chasm, tempered glass panels alternating with invisible, weak glass. Below, the void yawned. The first player stepped onto a panel. A collective breath rose from the crowd below. The glass groaned slightly but held. Another stepped forward. Another. I watched Gandonas approach. He moved carefully, testing each step. Like a man who had memorized every inch of physics, I could see his key instinct kicking in, calculating, measuring, surviving. Then a player misstepped. The glass shattered with a scream that echoed through the arena. He plunged into darkness. The bridge was a war of nerves. Players shuffled, paused, stumbled. Some tried to rush, hoping luck would carry them across. Others froze, paralyzed by fear. Players from previous games tried to help themselves by cutting corners, forcing others to move faster or fall. Alliances collapsed mid-crossing. Desperate grabs sent someone tumbling into the void. I saw a man stumble near Gandonas. He froze, eyes wide. Gandonas reached out, steadying him with a hand on the shoulder. For a split second, he showed mercy. Then the glass cracked beneath the man, and he fell screaming. Gandonas stepped back, unshaken, eyes locked ahead. I did nothing as Gandonas took careful steps, reaching the final few panels. Around him, survivors panicked, fell, and were eliminated. Finally, he reached solid ground, the exit platform. He turned, breathing hard, sweat streaking his face. Then he vanished behind the doors. Safe, for now. The survivors who made it to the other side were few. The bridge was littered with broken glass, blood, and the echoes of screams. I had survived as a guard, but the line between humanity and the mask was disappearing, and I knew the next game would demand more. The dining hall was enormous. High ceilings, crystal chandeliers, and tables arranged like a twisted banquet hall. Tonight, the PA said, you will dine, but survival is not guaranteed. I walked along the perimeter, rifle slung loosely, mask heavy on my face. Guards and survivors alike moved silently. Some players looked wary, knives or hidden items clutched under napkins. Some guards laughed quietly, tension failing to hide the unease in their eyes. The room smelled of roasted meat and blood. Players eyed each other like predators and prey. Players sat side by side, forced to eat, forced to trust, or pretend to. I kept my rifle ready, but didn't intervene. My eyes caught 067, Gandonas at the far end of the table. He had a calm, cold air about him, scanning the room, noting the alliances and betrayals forming in whispers. He was waiting for the right moment. Begin, the organizers said. Screams mixed with the clatter of silverware. Some guards hesitated. I didn't. I moved silently along the edge, rifle following any sudden movement. Some players died, some ate, some fought, but in the end, not everyone came out unharmed or eliminated. I clenched my jaw. This wasn't a game anymore. It was a test of instincts. The arena was unlike anything before. 3 platforms hovered hundreds of feet above the abyss, square, triangle, and circle. Steel beams connected them, but only narrow enough for 1 or 2 to cross at a time. Below, clouds churned like blood, hiding the void. Sky Squid, the PA boomed, is the final game. Each player must eliminate at least one opponent on each platform to advance round 1 and 2, 15 minutes. Final round, 10 minutes. Fail to do so, all remaining players are eliminated. I climbed to my observation point on the catwalk. Rifle in hand, heart hammering, the players eyed each other, weapons ready, sweat streaking their faces. Every alliance, every betrayal, every survival instinct would matter here. Round 1. The hunt begins. The platforms rattled as the countdown began. A group circled, circling like predators. Others tried to stay hidden, but exposure meant death. Gandonas stepped onto the square platform. He moved deliberately, scanning both platforms across the gaps. His eyes caught a person on the triangle platform, a potential target. Players lunged, shoved, and swung knives. Shouts echoed, footsteps skittered across steel, and a single misstep meant falling hundreds of feet. One person miscalculated, lunging at the wrong platform. He fell, grabbing nothing but air. The crowd on the other platforms screamed. Gandonas didn't flinch. He moved, poised, precise, striking only when necessary to eliminate a player on his current platform. 15 minutes passed. Some platforms were nearly cleared, bodies lay scattered, some dangling from steel rails, some motionless on the floors below. The organizers didn't pause. They reset the timers. Round 2, the PA announced. 15 minutes. Continue. Players adapted. Alliances broke instantly as survival became the only priority. Groups now stalked everyone. Turning on former allies, everyone moved between platforms, calculating risk, measuring jumps, gauging weapon reach. Other players were less careful. Some miscounted, leaving a platform without any kills. Their bracelets turned red. Detonation followed almost instantly. The air smelled of ozone and fear. Final round, 10 minutes to live. The remaining players were few. Only those who had successfully eliminated one opponent on each platform remained. The final round started. 10 minutes. One misstep, one hesitation, and the game ended permanently. Everyone attacked in waves. Players scrambled to survive. Platforms tilted and rattled under the stress, forcing even the strongest to pause. I watched Gandonas move with ruthless efficiency. On square, he eliminated a person who had cornered a female. On triangle, he feigned retreat, luring a panicked player over the edge, a narrow fall that ended in detonation. On circle, he faced two opponents simultaneously, striking one and shoving the other off the platform, barely catching himself on the railing. Every second counted. Players screamed and the wind howled beneath the platforms. When the timer hit 0, only a handful survived, Gandonas among them. The PA announced, winners confirmed, prize money awarded. The survivors stepped back onto the main platform, shaking, bloodied, exhausted. Some collapsed. Some stared silently at each other, unsure who had truly survived or who had simply been lucky. I lowered my rifle. I had watched everything. I had seen alliances break, friendships dissolve, morality vanish under the pressure of the game. Gandonas met my eyes briefly. Recognition, calculation, gratitude, maybe even respect. Then he turned, walking toward the exit. The final Sky Squid game was over. The organizers clapped behind the transparent wall. The cameras kept rolling. But for me and for everyone who had survived, nothing would ever be the same. We had reached the end, but at a cost that would haunt every heartbeat forever. Out of 456 player, only 3 remained. They, 3, split the cash prize of 45.6 billion won. That means 15.2 billion won each. Finally, even gods left the island. We were free, until I received a call. The same salesman called and asked if I would want to work once more. I was finally happy being with my family, paying for my daughter's treatment. The job's pay helped, and I didn't have a job after Squid Game anymore. I was forced to become a guard once more. It doesn't matter if I like it or not. I need to feed my family.